Hello. Are we live? Are we here? Can you guys hear me? I think we got 6 people in the chat right now. I need to chuck this cat out of here. Bye, cat. No more cat. Cat's out the window. Alright, give me just a second to get everything straightened up here. Okay. How's everyone doing? Good? It's good. So we have a very special guest today. Okay, we're starting with this again and it's already distracting. Let's watch me go for a little bit. This is me, and this is me, and this is me, and this is me. Anyway, okay, so that's already distracting. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. And it's also probably slowing the stream down anyways, so let me just fix that real fast. Oh no, I can't remember how to do this. Oh no. Okay, there we go. That's better. So, we have a... Oh, okay, I'm typing now. Now I'm not. That was the button for typing. I had forgotten how to do that, but now I remembered, so everything's okay. So, we have a very special guest with us today. I went ahead and created a little tonight.net place voice chat in the Discord channel. It's a very good old friend of mine who hasn't been on the channel in quite some time, but give me a second to let him join us here. Let me see. Oh wait, see, you know what? This would be the perfect time to be doing this animation. Hey! And let's see if I can get him to join us. Mouse, you with us? You're making farting noises. Can you hear me?
I think so.
Okay, there he is.
I'm not making any noises.
I mean, your microphone is picking up a lot of little noises. You got a little wanted to go ahead and start right off by, you were talking about, before we started the stream, a very special subreddit that you were going to check out, and I made you hold on and wait for a second so that we could check it out together. Oh man, that's a lot of typing going on. Oh, do I need to... Okay, I need to boost my audio. How's this sound? Is this any better? Your audio is actually picking up everything, so that's a problem, but it's something we'll work on. This is going to be a little bumpy of a stream because this is the first time I think we've done anything. But Mouse, you are there. You're being very quiet, suspiciously so, almost so I think you can't hear me at all. And there's also a delay. You're not listening to me through the stream, are you? Because that's going to be a really long delay between our conversations.
I can hear you. I don't know what the delay is.
Are you listening to me through the stream? Because you know there's a 15-second delay between the stream and, you know, our conversation on the Discord chat.
The stream audio is the only thing you're coming through for.
Oh,
it's
really?
The only audio I'm getting from you.
Oh, no, that's a big problem. I don't know how to fix that problem. Jeez. Okay. This should be interesting. So... Seems like Discord doesn't like when I... Hold on, give me a second here. Discord doesn't seem to like when I use my audio through, like, streaming as well as Discord. That's not a problem that I foresaw having. Shit. Well, we can't really have conversations then because we're just going to be... Give me a second. I'm going to look at this. Does Discord have like a streaming mode or something? I feel like it should be something Discord is quite good at, having conversation through Discord. Oh, wait. Okay, how's this? Mouse, how's this? Can you hear me now? Is it more...
Oh.
Are you hearing me twice now?
I can hear you now. I've muted the stream.
Okay, so now, are we actually having a real conversation now?
It seems like it.
Oh my god, you responded so fast. It was like lightning, like the power of the internet. Okay, so I wanted to have Mouse a little body that he could also like puppeteer alongside with me, but we haven't quite figured out a way to do that yet. Obviously, because, you know, we're having trouble getting like just regular talking working right now. So, but Mouse, welcome to the stream officially now. How you doing, bud?
Here now.
You are here now, as opposed to 10 to 15 seconds from now.
From now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is much better. This is a lot easier of a way to have a conversation. So we were going to talk today about fandoms because it's something that Mouse and I have had conversations about in the past, and I was about to make a video about it, and I realized that I kind of just had a lot of questions about fandoms that I kind of wanted to raise. And I realized that in my head, I was actually having a conversation with Mouse about fandoms because I know how he feels about them and I know how I feel about them and I know they're quite different from one another. But before we get into that, Mouse, let's go check out what teeth drumming is because I really want to know what this is. You were on a, you said it was a recommended subreddit for you?
No, it was just on the main page they have the rising subreddits, and I saw it in there.
Okay, so
could only assume it would be full of horror or something.
It sounds like some no sleep shit. Our teeth drumming. You just click your teeth together in all mad sorts of patterns and fills. Welcome aboard. Post videos and stories. Who knows what else it could lead to? Wow, this doesn't even seem to be that active of a subreddit. A cover of Bleed by Meshuggah. Oh my god, how many views does this have? Okay, let's see. This has a lot of views, 35,000?
That seems like an inappropriate amount.
Oh god, I don't like this. I'm already disgusted. I guess this is what I was expecting, but I'm just surprised it's a thing. Let's get to the comments. I can't even listen to it anymore. Oh, God. I think he had to go to the dentist after this. Great riffs. The tone of your teeth is on point, but I think your top right canine is slightly out of tune. Your teeth? Oh, did the stream just cut? I think the stream just cut. Where did I go? Did I vanish?
It seems like it. It looks like your audio or your video went out.
My video
But
went out. That's weird. Never had that happen before.
I don't know. I've got it muted, so it could be both things out.
It seems like I'm still streaming. I think my internet's mad at me because I like doing that thing where I have the stream within the stream. Teeth. I'm looking at the chat right now. There is a streaming mode. I can hear mouse too much. Somebody said. Wow. Okay. Can anyone else hear us right now? I might have had my internet just cut out temporarily, and then it stopped the stream.
Well, I unmuted the chat and our audio is still coming through. So
okay, well that's good. At least everyone can still hear us.
We just turned on video. It seems like
I have no idea how to fix that. Device capture. Oh, okay. Okay, that's weird. I'm there, not there. Why is that happening? I think I see why.
What have you done?
Something is wrong.
I was told this was going to be a very professional setup here.
This is the third stream.
I have to talk to my agent.
Haha! I'm back. I see what happened. I hit a button that was bad, and then my whole stream didn't like that. So,
of course,
but I'm back
the bad
now.
button. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. Okay. So let me get back to teeth chattering. I don't know.
I don't know that we need to get back.
No, I think this is now the teeth chattering stream, or maybe that was like a sign that like everything like my computer decided there didn't need to be any more video.
Your stream was probably so repulsed by teeth drumming.
I think there's a good chance of that.
Down.
Yeah. Okay. So we can get back to what we originally were going to talk about, which was fandoms. So the thing about fandoms that I really have been bothering me lately, I was going to go ahead and make a whole little essay video, minutes long, very good quality stuff about Kingdom Hearts 3 and how it's just a very embarrassing fandom to be a part of. Not because of the fandom in particular, but more so I'm just embarrassed to be, associated with the game or like identify as a fan of the game, mostly because I think it's a kind of not great game, and I feel like people who, I mean, it's hard to describe. You're playing through it too, right, Mouse? Like you're playing through Kingdom Hearts. Would you consider yourself a Kingdom Hearts fan?
That's hard to say. I feel like I'm a fan of the games, just in the sense of they're fun to play.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you had asked me the same question, 5 years ago or whenever the other games came out, 10 years ago or some garbage, I probably would have said yes. But since then, it's just become more convoluted than I care about.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with it.
I'm just playing the games now.
Yeah, I mean, and what are you thinking of 3? Because I found myself like pleasantly happy about how everything turned out with the game, but also I went in with severely lowered expectations, and I just didn't even care. So Chromius in the chat is saying they like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, but I wasn't even a fan of 2. 2 is where it started getting a little embarrassing to me.
I think you said 2 is bad.
You said 2 is bad, 3 is good. See, I'm kind of the opposite. Well, not opposite. I like 1. 1 was actually like a genuinely good story that appealed to me on a deep level that I'm embarrassed to even like express. Like I really enjoyed the plot of 1 and still to this day enjoy it. 2 is where everything started getting a little wonky, and it's just because of that I'm embarrassed about being a fan of the series.
It wasn't even until I started playing 3 that I realized I had forgotten most of 2.
See,
because it's like the characters will show up in a place and be like, "Nice to see you again," and I was like, "This happened before?"
Yeah. It's like, I don't. Well, here's the thing. I now enjoy Kingdom Hearts from a like Sonic the Hedgehog perspective, and that I enjoy seeing just how much they kind of mess everything up as they go. So it's like I enjoy watching the 3-hour streams of people trying to explain the plot to other people, because that's just very entertaining for me, and I enjoy watching someone try to like it's basically like watching a video of someone untangle like a really complicated like tangle of headphones or something like that. Like it's just really entertaining to me see like it's like, oh man, what a mess. This is entertaining for me on that reason. But also it's like I kind of like I relate to the fandom of the game because I feel like there's a lot of other people out there like me who enjoyed the first one, but are just like, man, it'd be cool if they, just scrapped the entire thing and started over and like did it right this time. But they seem to be very proud of their Tangle of Wires. But the main thing I wanted to talk about on the stream was, will you think that, I don't know, will you think that is this whole fandom identifying as someone who enjoys watching this thing, does that define who we are? Like, does that say something about someone when they say, I like this thing? What do you think, Mouse?
That's hard to say. You'd mentioned that question the other day, and I kind of had put some thought into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like on an individual level, not so much. But I feel like fandom as a whole, maybe more so.
Yeah.
Because I can definitely think of occasions where I could have gone to shows or gone to different places and didn't because I knew enough about the fan base participating in that event.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much that I didn't want to be associated with that as much as like I've tracked the behaviors of that fan group. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And like,
I feel you.
Just an example that I can think of recently for me was the Welcome to Night Vale podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a show coming up locally for them. But I've heard their live shows before, and just the people go ballistic and are, very rowdy in the audience at what is essentially an audio drama show. I'm like, I don't want any of that. But that's kind of the thing that I'm talking about, where I feel like you can assume more about the people as a group than you would be able to about any individual person in the group.
Yeah, I see that.
If that answers your question.
So I think that's a good point, but at the same time, if you're identifying as part of that group, isn't it hard to then, like, not throw in your lot with them? Like, isn't it, like, I mean, like, it's one thing to say, like, I'm not going to go to this place where these people are because I know what they're like, but, like, does that extend all the way to, are you nervous about identifying as being one of those people? Because it kind of becomes like its own, like problem at that point, where if you're not really going to be going to a place with people, then you're also kind of deciding that I am not one of them, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, it makes sense what you're saying. I don't necessarily feel that way just because of, how I identify people that I want to associate with. Like, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. Sisty20KK in the chat says it's more of a social badge, something like, hey, I like this thing, maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah,
that's how I kind of look at doing it on an individual level,
right?
Because you have to interact with a person to know them at all. And like, if I have, I've got different patches and badges on my backpacks and stuff, and it's like if somebody looks at my backpack and sees, I don't know, I've got probably a Pokemon patch on there or something, and just assumes that this guy's a weirdo for wanting to have Pokemon stuff on there or being part of that fan group, then that's not really a person I want to talk to anyway. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't bother me. It's kind of a self-filtering test.
Yeah, but like, isn't that considering it on a individual level though at that point?
Well, that the other person would be perhaps, but that's not how I look at it. If somebody has, if I were to look at somebody else with a fan,
well, it's like I feel bad about this, but something that I do is I do actually, like, if I hear someone say like, "Oh, I love Naruto," I kind of instantly assume they have bad taste at the very least. I don't really judge too much past that, but I am like on the like cusp of it. And I'm saying this as someone who's watched Naruto and watched an embarrassing amount of Naruto, mind you. Like, I do kind of identify as a fan of Naruto, where if anything, if I had nothing else in common with someone, I would at least be satisfied by the fact that, oh, we have at least this in common, and I might use that as a conversation piece. But if I just met someone and they're like, let's talk about Naruto, I'm gonna be like, that's a red flag. That's something I'm now worried about.
But see, what what that comes down to, what you're talking about there, has more to do with maybe um, like an appropriate setting. You know what I mean? Like you can be a fan of Naruto and not mention it or whatever, but if you're in a situation where that's the first thing somebody comes up to you and says, like that's kind of a like the fact that they just came up and said that thing is kind of more of the problem than they're a
That's
fan of
true.
Naruto.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would think it's like it's kind of more of the it's a socially appropriate. It has to do with setting. You know what I mean? Like if we're
Oh, so you're saying like that my thought process of this person is someone who identifies as a Naruto fan isn't so much the problem isn't so much that they're a fan of Naruto so much as it is they think this is a good way to start a conversation.
well, yeah, or like if you were um I don't know, at a con or just at a mall or walking around and you saw somebody with their headband or whatever it is that they
Yeah.
wear that they associate. I don't know a lot about that show, but I've seen people with
Okay,
those.
wait.
That's all I
Okay,
know.
here's a better example.
But
Here's a better example. I got a better one. Naruto is
like,
like. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
I was just gonna say like that, which is like that's fine. They're a fan of that show or whatever. But then versus I don't know a more formal setting like at a museum or a job fair or something
Oh
like
God,
social
yeah.
yeah like William Murphy is like proper social context is key, and I think that's the bigger issue rather than the fandom, because
Ah,
you can be a fan of whatever, but as long as you know how and when to bring it up,
I guess.
that's the
No, but see, okay, I was gonna provide another example, and now I'm like, this is perfect. So, a different example, a better example, more appropriate maybe is well, I don't know. You're probably not someone who would care about this, but I think a lot of people would, which is the idea like okay, so not Naruto, My Little Pony. What if you saw
sure.
someone with My Little Pony gear? I've known My Little Pony fans who are not the worst and who are actually decent, good people. They exist, but I still like even if it's just like any kind of identification, social badge, someone who wants the world to know they're a fan of My Little Pony in any way. I mean, I think you and I know someone mutually who's a cool person
Okay,
who likes the is a part of the fandom. So
well, assuming we're talking about the same person, that person doesn't like outwardly blare it in such a way, because again it comes down
I
to
think they do. Like I've seen them with merchandise, and they're not ashamed of it. And I think part of it is that that's part of the
well
fandom too. Like they're proud of
there's a
it.
difference between well yeah but there's a difference between not being ashamed of it and like being proud of it to where you want other people to see it, because one you're trying to wear like a badge, like look at me, I have this thing, versus like I'm okay with who I am and the things I like. I feel like there's a big difference there.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm saying, like at that point though, like we know the person and we know that's what they're trying to say, but if you're not making like if that was the first impression you were making on someone, I feel like the fandom carries a lot more with it than the actual.
Okay, I have an example that was just the other day
Okay.
here. um, there is a hobby game store that I go to somewhat frequently, and the last time I was there was a kid that came in, obviously into Pokemon,
Sure.
but like he was carrying around several large stuffed animals. And when I say large, I mean like a pillow size, and like dragging it around in the manner that like a child would or something like
How
that.
old were they?
Probably not much younger than me.
Which
Definitely
I mean,
20s.
okay, 20s. All right, I was about to say
But
because most people don't know, but
but the issue there is not so much that they're a fan of Pokemon, but it's just like the way that like they choose to engage socially with it is like he's
yeah,
not talking to people about, hey, I'm a fan of this, or are you interested in this or whatever, but it's just like he kind of kept to himself and like had his stuffed animals and things with him, and it like wasn't necessarily a setting that is appropriate for.
true. Yeah, that's
Like
what
if you're
William
going
Murphy
to a
seems to be
friend's
saying.
house and you bring something or whatever, but like going to a game store where there's like tournaments and other things happening and he just kind of like wandered around and made people a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue that he was a fan of Pokemon. It was just the the social context. It was strange.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I want to point out something. Sisty 20kk also pointed out. I guess some fandoms grew so much that they became a symbol that people either hate or love in this age of the internet. And this is something I wanted to eventually work up towards, but I don't see any reason not to bring it up now. But I think in the internet, like, I'm just gonna go. Let me get a suggestion from the chat, and I'll type in a good fandom. Like, I'm thinking, like, right now, one good one might be our Star Wars. And just because it's like, on the internet, when discussing these things, it's kind of impossible not to immerse yourself in the fandom, if that makes sense. Like, it's one thing to go to, like, a concert or something and to, like, oh, I'm not going to interact with anybody, I'm just here to enjoy the thing. But the difference is online, when discussing it, you're basically in the territory of the fandom, and you're surrounded by the fandom. And like you were saying, like, maybe not on an individual level can I make a determination about someone for being a part of this, like, thing, but the way the internet works is we're kind of, forced to, like, categorize ourselves, one, but also the internet, like, reflects the things that we want to see. So in a way, like, being your fan, it's no longer about, like, oh, is the fandom in this place, do I have to interact with them? The social context is now determined by the fandom, if that makes sense, because the internet is, like, organized by interests. So all of a sudden, like, I go into any comment section of our Star Wars, I'm now, like, this is the fandom. I'm now, like, the like, the culture, the customs, the way people talk to each other, the inside jokes. It's all the fandom, and it's even to even have a conversation with someone, you have to kind of adhere to a certain social custom, even if it's not anything big. You're still, like, gonna be a part of it. So I guess I'm kind of, like, blathering here, but it's like, I think the connotation of fandom and identifying as a fan in real life versus, so, like, someone wearing a Naruto headband in the anime convention or in real life, that's like, okay, I'm gonna steer away from that person, but maybe there's a more proper context to have a conversation with them. Like, seeing somebody with, like even just having a,
well, see, that statement itself is like,
hello.
Like,
oh my god, somebody did it. I was waiting for it to happen.
We have somebody else in the chat.
Hey, Arb.
Oh.
I'm going to kick you out now. I was just wondering to see if somebody would jump in. We have somebody who has just intruded onto the Discord server. All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Actually, he left on his own. I just want to say he did a good job there, because I was afraid I was going to ban him from the entire server. But yeah, I still haven't quite figured out how to edit permissions, so it might get chaotic at certain points. But sorry, continue.
I don't know. I forget what we were talking about.
I forgot what we were talking about too. I guess what I kind of
mentioned the Naruto headband and steering away from that person, and I was like, I don't know that that's necessarily the appropriate.
I mean, not steering away from that person. That was just a generalization. Like, just like, that would be a. I only bring that up as a way to point out that fandoms carry certain connotations with them and certain stigmas with them, whether you want to or not. And, like, because if somebody had a Spider-Man mask on, or a Spider-Man pin, or whatever, I wouldn't judge them I would judge them differently than I would somebody who had, like, Naruto merchandise on, if that makes sense.
Will Murphy in the chat mentioned, he said, I wonder if a fan base is inevitably headed towards cringe the larger it gets. And that's I wonder how true that is, just because
I was actually thinking about this the other day. The more people
become involved, the more, like, different types of niche humor and things like that start to develop. And then when you're from the outside looking at something like that, does it, it inherently becomes cringy because it just seems weird and off-putting because you don't understand the full context of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's inevitable. Like, I was actually thinking about that the other day. The worst, because I actually tweeted something about how, like, most things regarding fandoms are about cringe or embarrassing culture surrounding them. But I think that's just an inevitability when something becomes popular, because you start not just, like, at first I thought it was because of, because it was, like, around the time of Steven Universe really getting popular, Undertale getting popular, My Little Pony had already been at the peak of popularity at that point. But I started developing this theory that the more welcoming and like kind-hearted and like everyone special in their own way a like media was, that it sort of attracted like the worst kind of people. But I don't think that's the case anymore. What I've realized now since then is that it's just entirely based on popularity. The bigger something gets, the more inevitable it is that someone who is more embarrassing and more socially awkward is going to be attracted to, a fandom. And then and those people will tend to have a negative effect on how people perceive that fandom. But, and I think also in an online space that can be pretty annoying, because the more popular something is, the more it tends to dominate, an internet space. And on the internet, everything's kind of like real estate is kind of like an ideological thing, where it's like the more popular an idea is, the more content that's created for an idea, the more space it takes up in online spaces. So if you don't like Battle Royale, Fortnite, whatever, and all of a sudden it's just hard to get away from it, and it's hard to not see people talking about it, even if it's something you hate, that can get really frustrating, and on itself like start to give the fandom a bad reputation just because you're annoyed by them by default. But that's not really what I'm talking about, because like Spider-Man's popular, Naruto's popular, but I think there are certain things about, like, I think I can determine certain things. Like, Naruto is like somewhat old at this point, so I feel like I can recognize the certain age of a person by the thing they like. I think I can recognize, like, if somebody liked a more niche anime, something that wasn't as popular. Like, okay, a good example would be like Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty players versus like something else. Like, you kind of like somebody says I play video games, and you go, cool, I also play video games, and therefore we can relate on things. But like this subreddit I'm in right now is full of very different people than the people in the Naruto subreddit. So as a result, I think it's like, I guess what I'm getting to is, I think I can kind of determine things about people, very, very surface level things about people, based on the things they like. So you're saying, like, for you to say, like, oh, it's entirely based on social context or whatever, I disagree on that, because I think even if presented in a proper social context, I can say this person has very different tastes to me, they have different values than I do when it comes to entertainment, and therefore I'm not, like, I can at least glean some information off of this person. So in a way, what I'm suggesting is that, especially in an online space, if you're someone who spends a lot of time
profiling.
I am profiling. I am absolutely profiling. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think it's inevitable, though, and maybe that's just me. Like, you don't do that. You don't see someone, and maybe it has more to do with your own niche taste in things. But I think, like, for me, I can definitely determine something, and maybe I am profiling. Maybe that's completely unfair of me. Are you saying you don't do that? Like, you're into more games and tabletop games and stuff like that.
The extent that I would do that to would be like, if I saw somebody with shit, I don't know, like a Naruto something or other, I would just be like,
we're just really hating on Naruto today.
Yeah, I know. Well, because I'm like looking over at my backpack, and the only patches facing me right now are the Pokemon ones. So it's like those are the two options that are coming to my head right now.
Yeah, like that's your fandom, like, so I can understand why you would go to those.
I would assume that that person watches anime. Like that would be as far as I get.
Yeah, like, I feel like even that you can determine a lot.
A Call of Duty, lanyard or something like that, I would assume that they play Call of Duty and probably some other shooters, but like that's about as far as I usually take it.
But I just realized something. No, but I mean, like, even just saying like, oh, all I would know is they watch anime, and I don't know anything else about them. I'm now going back to the chat here, because I'm going to go to the very, very, very top, where Chromius, one of our Discord admins, I can't zoom in. No, that's not gonna work. Wait, if I go down now? I don't know. Anyway, one of the top things they said, and I'm guessing it was based on how I titled the stream, is this the stream? Let me see if I move it over here, maybe? Nope, it's not liking me doing this. Ah, come on. Where are you at? Come here, Chromius. Alright, is this a stream where it's revealed that Mouse is a weeaboo? Because, and I said, no, more likely he shames me for being one. But the thing is, like, that's such a good example of what I'm talking about. Because it's like, even if it's not specifically anime, you can still have a huge, like just the idea of a weeaboo carries so much weight to it. The idea of this person who's kind of a Japanophile, someone who prefers a certain kind of media from a different place that they're not from. You can determine something like age. You can determine something like, I mean, it could even go down to so much as like, oh, that wasn't the cool thing to like in high school, so they're kind of probably a nerd. They're probably someone who had trouble fitting in. There's just a lot of, weight that comes with that topic, that interest. There's a lot of different things to determine about someone that can be revealed by just simply liking anime. That's a big deal. And it's the whole reason.
I think we're coming at it from different sides, which is why maybe the views are not aligning as much. Because I'm looking at it from, I'm seeing an individual with like maybe a notifier of a particular fandom on them and saying, well, I can't tell much about them from that. But you're working at it from the opposite side, where you're hearing about a fandom and determining about an individual from there. So you're working kind of the opposite way.
Yeah, maybe.
Where if I were to see somebody, outwardly dressed in more of a Japanophile style, I don't know what that would look like necessarily. Like, I wouldn't be like, that person's a weeaboo. But then at the same
make
time,
an effort
going
not to
from
do
the
that.
title of weeaboo, like, that has a setting, like, that has a predetermined association with it. And so I think it's just looking at it from other sides. Like, I'm trying to look at the individual and you're looking at the group.
I mean, but I think there's a lot. I guess, okay, so maybe I should get to the root of what I think the problem. The reason this bothers me is I worry about people doing this to myself. So maybe it's because I'm doing it to others, and that like kind of rubs off on me, and I assume that people are making the same like judgments, like base judgments about me. So to bring it all back to the beginning, I'm not proud of the fact that I like Kingdom Hearts, because I think it's embarrassing. But even more so, I'm nervous about telling people about it because I'm worried about all the quick judgments and the immediate things you can kind of determine about someone based on the fact that they like Kingdom Hearts. You can say they like Final Fantasy. You can say they like Disney. You can say they like Disney too much. And like another thing would be like, I don't know. I guess I'm just worried. And I think on the internet, it's even more of a thing, because to say you're a fan of something online indicates that you spend time with the people who like this thing, right? Can we agree on that you would spend time with people who like that thing if you were a fan of that thing?
Say that again.
Okay, maybe I'm not making sense. I'm trying to say that, like, if you talk about something online, if you're a fan of something, even if that fandom in no way defines you or is an easy way to describe who you are as a person, then it at least determines the kind of crowd you hang out with. Can you say that? Are you willing to admit that?
I don't know. I guess in a really fragmented sense, I don't have a single thing or fandom that I am a part of that really drives who I hang out with.
You don't hang out with people who play Pokemon? And you also just talked about going to, and I guess it maybe makes more sense in an online capacity.
I mean, I'll admit on an online capacity, because it has determined some of the subreddits that I follow, but
right.
I'm not as active online as you are.
That's true.
So my interactions are usually reading and occasionally replying or something like that. But, in my personal life, in real life, I don't have any one thing that is so outweighing the other that it becomes a majority of who I hang out
I mean, like, I think even just
few people that I hang out with, actually play Pokemon. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 off the top of my head that play to any degree, or I'm a big fan of Warhammer. I've been involved in that for a long time, and I have a couple friends who play on and off, but it's not enough to say that I hang out with people who play Warhammer.
I mean, you have to hang out with people who play Warhammer to play Warhammer, though, right?
I disagree.
I mean, in the sense that you're spending time with a human being. Like, in the same way, like, okay, if I told you that once a week I spent an hour interacting with a white supremacist, do you not think that would have an impact on me as a human being?
Hang on, say that one more time. I was, like, reading the chat while you were talking, sorry.
Oh, you're good. Well, I was just saying that, like, if I told you that I spent 1 hour every week hanging out with, I'm trying to think, like a member of ISIS or something like that, would you not think that would have an impact on who I am as a person? Like, do you not think, like, for better or for worse, it would change me?
I would have to understand your motivations behind it, but for me to really make a judgment on that.
To say we both enjoyed something in common, which makes it even more, I think. Like, I think even just, like, talking to a person for an hour, and yeah, maybe it is different for whatever intentions or reasons you go in to talk to this person, but I think to even be in the room with someone, I don't know. I'm under the opinion that, like, we're kind of defined by the people we surround ourselves by. So I think that's why it's something that worries me a lot. It's something that concerns me, like the idea of fandoms and how we define ourselves, especially on the internet, because, like, if you are interacting with anyone on the internet, it's gonna be about something you're interested in, for better or for worse. Like, it could be a political thing, and you might be, like, even just taking one political stance is going to open you up to a lot of people who oppose that ideology, and that will also shape who you are as a person, just based on who's disagreeing with you, you know?
Hey, what do you think about Mario Kart Guy 27 down here? All fandoms are toxic. Any of them.
I don't think he's wrong to feel that way. I feel like you can definitely, doesn't matter, Smash Fallout. That's somebody who's been burned, dude. I feel like he's at the...
Who hurt you?
I feel like he definitely... I can understand where you come from, but I feel like that's part of kind of like the fandom cycle, you know? Because, like, I think when you first get online, you're like, whoa,
I'm
all
on
these
board with
cool
Nick
people.
Berg down here, where you can be a fan of something without participating in a fandom. I completely agree.
I know that seems to be where you're coming from. I'm kind of saying that, like, it's very difficult to not be exposed to the fandom. Like, even if you're not talking to people, like, just scrolling through this Pokemon subreddit right now, like, you're getting exposed to this, for instance, right here. What's actually, like, on the screen on the stream. I'm going back up to it now because I'm watching the stream with a delay. This is some fan art, you know? This is some fan art, and did you see that, like, I don't know, like, this is something that I just saw scrolling through. It's a little, I think that's furry. I think we can label this as furry. Am I wrong? I'm gonna, like, leave this up as, like, visual documentation. So this is some furry shit, alright? This is a thing, sure. And you're being exposed to the, furry community, whether you want to or not. And imagine some kid who is like, I like Pokemon, I'm 10, and I'm the, designated age. I'm gonna go to this subreddit and look at things. And then they're like, all of a sudden, like, oh, what's this? Oh, I feel funny. Why do I feel funny? And then they start looking for more art like that, and they start trying to find more things like that. That changes them.
I feel like that's a very dangerous line of logic, because that's the, like, associating with gay people will make you gay logic.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, like, I guess that's kind of bad.
There's a lot of fandoms, but to see that picture and be like, everybody who's a fan of Pokemon is a furry, it's like, that's a
I think you'll definitely be exposed to it more.
It's a failure on an individual level, though. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like
to be a furry is to be a failure.
Just like, okay. To make that assumption.
Oh, so I'm the one failing for thinking that.
To say yes. To say, to be exposed to that and then make that assumption about everybody who's got, like, a Pokemon keychain or something like that, that's a failure on the individual. So that's what I was saying before, is, like, if there's somebody who has been exposed to this and then sees, like, the Master Ball patch on my backpack, It's like, that kid's weird and a furry and stuff. Like, that's a person I don't care to associate with.
No. Okay. Here's the thing.
Like,
I didn't raise this point to say you're a furry for liking Pokemon.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. But you were saying before that you are concerned. You're concerned about being labeled as something for being a part of a fandom by another person, and I'm of the position that if somebody tries to assume something about me based on a patch or something that I'm wearing, that's a person that I don't want to associate with anyway, so I don't care about that kind of association. I guess, it's a self-filtering test. If they're of such a mind that they'll decide whether they want to talk to me based on something that I'm wearing or whatever in a completely appropriate context, then that's not, I don't care about that.
Yeah, and you're fine. No, I mean, like, the reason I didn't even bring this up to say, like, I'm not trying to pass judgment, and I see Chromius already talking about anthropomorphic does not automatically make it furry. I agree. I didn't mean to start up furry debate. I have nothing against furries. I don't care. I'm just like, the reason I brought that up was I was trying to, like, we had kind of gotten away from I was trying to get away from I'm concerned about how people think about me for liking a certain thing, and I was trying to get into the point of, are we in fact defined not by other people, but we're exposed to different things because of the fandoms we're a part of. So is it possible to, I think the question that I brought that up for was, I can be a fan of something without being a part of the fandom. And I was just trying to say, like, seeing this kind of stuff changes you. I feel like it has an impact on you whether you want it to or not. It doesn't make you a furry, but it makes you aware of being, like, of furries or something like that. And maybe that wasn't furry, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, it's hard not to be changed by something, by seeing new ideas and being exposed to different things and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of why this topic interests me so much.
Well, I mean, I feel like at that point you're just kind of getting into psychology at some point.
Maybe? I don't know, but
it's like, behavioral psychology. You're a combination of the 3 people you spend the most time with or whatever. Like, at some point it just becomes, associations in how you spend your time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, though. Like, so in that sense, I feel like it's impossible for us not to be, a part of a fandom. It's hard to, I mean, like, unless you, like, really seclude yourself. Also, like, here's another idea.
Well,
like,
or
go ahead.
The alternative would be not that you have to seclude yourself, but don't bury yourself in it. Back to, I forget whose comment it was. I think it was McBurg, where you can be a fan of something without participating in a fandom. I'm a fan of a lot of different things, but I don't become so involved in them that they define who I am. And I think that's the important, I guess it comes down to how much time you spend in it. You can bury yourself in it, and then it can really shape, who you are and how you interact with people versus, something that's very surface level. Like, I'm a fan of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh my god. Speak of look at the timing of that.
What?
What's on the screen? Oh, you can't see what's on my screen right now because you're a little bit behind. No, but the timing of you bringing up Kingdom Hearts while I was scrolling through the Pokemon subreddit was perfect.
But, like, and I can talk about that at a surface level with somebody, but I'm not going to be spending hours online interacting with people about it. And on the same time, if I were that kind of person, I could see where spending a ton of time around a specific group of people online could change, could change your behavior. But I don't know that that's necessarily the direct fault of the fandom or how much time you invest in it necessarily.
That's fair. You're definitely going to, immersing yourself more in the culture is definitely something that's going to have an impact on you, and choosing to immerse yourself in the culture. I guess my point was, I don't know if it's possible to, dodge it, to avoid it, to get out of it without, to not be impacted by it in a significant way. And I think that's where, I guess I'm just trying to validate my own you know, preconceptions about people and trying to determine like exactly why. I don't know. I guess I'm saying like why I feel like I'm not wrong for trying to like at least start off by judging someone by the things they like.
You're trying
like,
to justify your racism.
I am.
Well,
I'm being fandom racist.
Fanism.
Yeah, I'm being fandom racist. But like, I mean, in some cases, especially, and again, this is why I value your opinion because you're not someone who spends as much time online as I do. I appreciate your feedback on this stuff. But like, on the internet, there are literal like people define themselves like it's like I'm trying to think like so you have Gamergate. Let me go to that subreddit. You have like the subreddit Kotaku in Action, which is a subreddit that was founded years ago, even before Gamergate, but is still going just based off of like, you know, that original argument about Gamergate. And it's a pretty huge subreddit. But like at this point, it's become like even if you stood on one like on their side of the argument during Gamergate, you don't necessarily associate with this subreddit because they've gone up to like they themselves have brigaded and done so many different things just in the name of like it's become its own thing. Like it spawned into its own like it started off as a sort of quote unquote fandom, but now it's like very much a almost like a guild, I guess, or like I'm trying to think of a better way to define it. Like it goes beyond just being a social badge at this point to like to the point where there are people who will ban you from certain Reddits just from associating with these people.
Well, and you kind of I don't know. Like I've been kind of half watching the chat here, and it seems like there are people going back and forth on what constitutes toxicity and how every fandom is toxic or whatever. But, you know, somebody else earlier in the chat obviously mentioned that, you know, you kind of have to debate whether it's the whole fandom or just vocal outliers that are really causing the problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
I think that's the case.
You and I have
agree
had conversations before about like the whole Diablo fiasco and how many people were so mad about that, and I was like blown away by how angry people were getting, because in my mind, you know, a company owes you nothing. You know, it's they were getting mad that their thing that they made up in their head didn't get announced to them, and like that kind of entitlement is weird to me. But like are all Diablo fans acting that way? Obviously not. You know, I just don't.
Well, here's another point I was going to bring up.
Comes down to
that I forgot about. Because you were talking about like you can choose to kind of immerse yourself into something or to not immerse yourself into something. And the thing, like I was
Mario
thinking,
Kart guy said it, same as Waluigi and Smash. It's like that's the thing that the fans completely fabricated that themselves. There was no way to like know that whatever.
But
the fans still felt entitled to it for no particular reason. But at the same time, you know, I would say that I'm a fan of Smash Bros. Because it's a fun game to play, and I've got friends who are, and nobody could give a shit if Waluigi's there. It's just like that vocal group that kind of makes it feel
I give
toxic
a shit. First of all, I give a shit if Waluigi is in Smash. All right, he needs to be in Smash. Everyone knows this. That's besides the point, though.
But
what we need to talk about is
saying that for meme status, or do you?
I would actually enjoy Waluigi.
Posting?
Okay. Like we're gonna go down the Waluigi hole now because I actually enjoy Waluigi as a character on like a lot of different levels, and I'm actually enjoying the love he's getting as a Mario character. We're gonna go completely down this hole. Hold on, I'm gonna actually switch into my other animation so that I can talk about this and give it my full
Unless
attention.
You're a Mother 3 fan, then Nintendo hurts you on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo just enjoys that. That's completely besides the point. But I'm not even sure what a Mario subreddit looks like. No, but here's the thing about Waluigi. So you know the joke, the ongoing Nintendo joke of like Luigi is the unpopular brother and no one actually cares about him. But the fandom loves Luigi, specifically because Nintendo kind of treats him callously. He's like the real underdog of like the Mario family. So, but here's the thing, like Nintendo does that tongue in cheek, like they're like, oh, nobody cares about Luigi, ha ha ha. But the thing is, Waluigi is a brother of Wario. He is the opposite of Luigi, and I think in a very interesting way, Waluigi is actually like genuinely like the unloved brother. Like he is actually a character that like does not get any attention, and as a result, like it's almost like a true mirror version of Luigi, where we pretend nobody likes him and that he's unpopular, but he's actually very popular. Meanwhile, Waluigi is like actually unloved and doesn't get attention out of all the brothers, and that makes me love him even more. And even more on top of that, have you heard about the recent Nintendo Valentine thing? Where Nintendo had a poll saying which Nintendo character would you most want to give a Valentine to, and Waluigi won by like an incredible amount because he just has that sex appeal, and that is a meme. But so is like Luigi, Luigi being unpopular and being like laughed at and all that.
I don't know if he's hit quite the same meme status as Waluigi has.
Well, no, I mean like he's an older, like that's kind of an older idea too. Like I feel like he's been around longer.
But I mean the point was really more that we were talking about toxicity of fandoms and how it's not so much like there's a much more moderate section of every fandom that is probably underrepresented or not represented in a lot of cases. But people tend to be identified by the negative. I forget what we were talking about.
Yeah, we kind of got off track with the Waluigi. Oh, so we can, yeah. Well, I mean, like, I did have a point I was kind of building up to with all this before you started slandering Waluigi's name, which was, wait, hold on, I'm not going to leave it on Furry Mario. Or that person's leg. I gotta find it better. Because I can only type or puppeteer. I can't do both. And I'm nervous about leaving it on YouTube videos because I'm worried this will get flagged. Because I had one of my streams get flagged, and I need to just make a playlist of my own videos I can just play in the background, so at least there's something interesting going on screen all the time. Playlists. What did you do? I had 10 videos, 28. Here, I'll just put these on, even though there's like nothing interesting going on visually. So you'll see me talking while I'm talking. But no, so like the other point I wanted to get to was, and I made a few videos about this in the past, about how, I think it was like a Sonic video, about how you have the Sonic fandom actually going and now influencing Sonic mainstream material. So like even if you're someone who is like, I will not come in contact with the fandom, I will not interact with the fandom, I will be completely separate from them, what do you do when, and this is becoming more and more the case, especially with the internet and everyone being able to like directly interact with the fandoms and like even the creators being influenced by the fandom, what do you do when the media that you're consuming itself starts to be, like in part created by that fandom? Like they're unavoidable at that point.
I mean, as a fan of Sonic, you do nothing. You just participate in the parts that you like and ignore the rest of it.
But like, I mean,
like,
you
Sonic
can't
Mania
avoid
was
it.
Great, but there are different.
Sonic Mania was literally made by the fandom. Like that was a fan of Sonic.
Sonic Mania was great, but then some of the other Sonic content is obviously not. But you can participate in the part that you want.
I think that, I think this is also one of the major parts where we're disagreeing.
Because like being part of a fandom doesn't mean you have to bury yourself in it 100% of the time, which is where I think you're coming from, or you're trying to propose that that's how people interact with their fandoms, because being online and participating in those things somehow you lose the ability to pick and choose what part of the content you want to be participating in. Like I'm a fan of Sonic and I see different things coming and going, but I don't care about a lot of it. But then something like Sonic Mania comes up and it's great and I participate in that part of it.
Well,
like being
I'm not
part
saying
of a
that
fandom doesn't strip you of your ability to choose,
No, I know. I guess I'm saying like in some small way it is tainted. In a way, like you can't escape it. Like there's no, like you don't know what was or is not a part of the fandom. Like you can't determine this is fine, this is not. I mean, I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should be someone who's like, "You, a furry, touched this thing. I'm not going to interact with this anymore." I'm just saying, like, I think it's unavoidable, I think, is what I'm getting to. Like, the fandom is a part of the media is a part of the fandom. They kind of go back and forth, because similar in the way that one person in the chat earlier said it's a social badge, the metaphor I kind of came up with recently that I liked was it's almost less of a social badge and more of like a campfire that people sort of gather around, and they all kind of congregate around this idea, or this similar group of ideas, to discuss something, and it's something they're impacted by, and it's something they're a part of, and it's kind of unavoidable to not be changed in some way because of this thing.
Okay, so I have.
Give me a second.
I have I guess, kind of an example of just. Hang on, my thought totally just evaporated out of my head. So in regards to something like Sonic, so you were saying earlier that you're concerned about, by admitting your fandom, people will assume other things about it, and like I'm saying, that's kind of like a self, answering test. Like somebody who feels that way is not somebody to interact with anyhow. And like a perfect example of that is like the Sonic fan. There have been times where I've said before, like, "Oh, I'm a fan of Sonic," and then somebody will look at me and be like, "Which ones?" And then I'm like, "Oh, obviously the Sega Genesis stuff and Sonic Mania." And then it's like, "Oh, okay."
You're
and
cool.
Then like,
you're one of the cool Sonic fans.
But
Yeah,
like
no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's like an appropriate approach to it, and like so that like I feel like it works more as a signal in that regard, where it's like it opens the door for somebody to interact with you, and then in that interaction you kind of define how you are a fan of that thing.
Yeah,
I guess. What I mean?
But I mean,
it's like if I say I'm a fan of Kingdom Hearts, and then people are like, "Oh, really? Why?" And then I'm like, "Well, I like the gameplay. The story's kind of gone AWOL." And somebody else is like, "Oh yeah, it totally has."
I just consider that a sub fandom,
and
though. Like, I just consider that to be still part of a fandom, but you're like a subset of that fandom. Like, you can say you're a Green Lantern fan, but there's so many Green Lanterns that really doesn't say a lot. It just kind of groups you, like you're in this category of fandoms. And then some people who might be a part of that fandom, like that Sonic guy, was probably like, "Oh yeah, he could be cool, but maybe he's not." But like the thing is oh, I gotta go to the Sonic subreddit now because I really want to know what that looks like. But the thing that I'm getting to isn't so much that like you can't escape this definition, as it is like it's kind of like a congregation of ideas, and like just by being a part of it, you're kind of
being. You had
being
NHL stuff on screen for a second there. You're
what?
Screwed.
NHL?
Yeah.
Why? Was it like a ad or something?
No, I was just kidding.
Oh god, I was actually scared. That is something that concerns me.
You had the NHL jerseys on there.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the New Jersey Devils. I haven't watched hockey.
Yeah, I don't ever do that. But the thing I'm getting to, and maybe this is like just like I'm hoping we can reach like a mutual understanding before the stream is over. But like I don't think that there's anything wrong with not wanting to be part of a fandom. I disagree that all fandoms are inherently toxic. I think what that one person was saying, and I think I kind of agree with this idea, is that anyone who defines themselves by a fandom kind of has some problems. Not necessarily toxicity, or they're not necessarily bad, but they can be. I think that is a kind of like, I don't know, anyone who intentionally defines themselves by a group of people who like a thing. I kind of agree with that idea. Like there is some inherent, like, I don't know, if you only recognize yourself as like a My Little Pony fan or a Sonic fan or a Pokemon fan, that kind of shows like a deficient in personality. Like it kind of shows that you value mob mentality more than your own individual opinion. So I agree with that, but I think the point I'm getting to with all this is that to some extent that you can't escape being completely separate from the fandom. In some way, it's defining you. We're defined by the things we like, the things we consume, the ideas we choose to take part in. Even if we're not choosing to interact with other people who like these things, we're still Like, it's all one kind of big table we're all sitting at, you know, and we're all kind of eating from the same plates.
I guess if you're looking at it in a really rudimentary sense, but even then you have to kind of go to a chicken or the egg situation where it's like, am I a fan of this thing because of who I am, or is who I am defined by that thing? Also, I just want to shout out to Chromius. Obviously, Guy Gardner is the best Green Lantern.
Agreed. Well,
but
I mean, Kyle is pretty good too.
No.
Yes, I like Kyle a lot. As long as we can all agree that Hal Jordan is the worst, and we've been very disappointed. Okay, we're getting here. Okay, Chromius, what do you think about? I'm gonna put this on screen now. You can tell me if this is anthropomorphic or furry. I think there's no difference at this point. But yeah, I think definitely I like Kyle Rayner a lot. I think he's really cool. But I also was like a '90s kid who liked drawing, so. But I'm genuinely curious to see how Chromius feels about.
Imagine your favorite Green Lantern being anyone other than Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
CGI. I only
as long
accept
as it's not
CGI Green Lantern.
Oh, the CGI mask. I know, right? But the bigger. I mean, but that's like an important thing, like, cause like that's what I'm talking about. Like, you can tell a lot about a Green Lantern fan based on their preferred Green Lantern, and I think like that's something that's like a subset of the fandom.
But
and
is that a definition? Like,
I think it says something about you. Yeah, I think it's a personality test kind of level about you, where it's like your horoscope kind of says something like, or if you, I don't know, someone who believes in horoscopes said something. I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess I'm saying like, I don't think. It is a chicken. I'll admit it's a chicken or the egg scenario. Like, I don't think either of us are entirely right. I don't think either of us are like. I don't know why.
Well, because it's like, I don't know. You can define somebody about their favorite. You know, you can define somebody about from their fandom about as much as you could. You know, what charity work they do or something like that. You know what I mean?
That says something about a person, don't you think?
But only in a very rudimentary sense. It's like, you know, if somebody volunteers for Habitat for Humanity versus volunteering for
what the heck?
You know, the ASPCA or something.
Yeah, no, I think that does say something about a person. Like, if it's not a good charity, or if it's something that looks good but doesn't necessarily like a good example would be how certain people go on mission trips. Actually, I got into a debate with somebody on Reddit about this, about how whether mission work is good or not, like going to different countries and trying to do good, and it really comes down to what kind of mission work you're doing, and that's kind of the like point we came to, is like if you're actually doing good or if you're someone who just wants to look like you're doing good. So I think, like, I don't know, and maybe this is just, I think it comes down to you and I have very.
You can't tell that by simply the fact that they're going on mission trips, but that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like, you can only make very general, vague statements about somebody in the context of what they appreciate without investigating more. You know, I could see it maybe as, you know, keep coming back to the social badge or a signal to like maybe investigate further if that's something that you have a shared interest in, but I don't think that you can define somebody by that.
I guess it also comes down to what you consider defining someone, because like, I don't know. I think, like, I don't think of defining someone as like, this is what you are, this is who you are. I think of it as just like, this is something that's had an impact on your life. In the same way, like, having a friend of yours get murdered by someone may or may not have an impact on you as a person. But in some small way, it has defined you. That experience does define who you are. How much and to what extent it defines you is something to be debated, but.
Maybe informing is a better word then. Like, it informs who you are, it affects who you are, but
yeah, maybe.
Define is such a hard word for it that I think.
The hot furry debate going on currently is furry isn't a person, it's an idea, and an idea is immortal, unstoppable. I kind of want to go to the furry subreddit, but I'm very nervous that it's going to be not safe for work and that I am going to be in trouble. I don't know what I can get away with streaming on here before I get a strike.
We've already had that hockey jersey on here twice, so you're gonna get flagged.
Fighting. Yeah, I'm gonna get flagged probably, but that is a risk. I think I just go down to some. Again? I'm not even seeing it.
I keep seeing. because it's on the top of the popular board. It's just a GIF.
Oh,
of, like,
no.
kiss
Yeah, that's
cam or
actually super
something.
cute. Yeah, no, I like this. Did you see this? That's adorable.
No.
Cutest thing ever. It's been on the top of
I
our
just
all
see.
since yesterday. It's been great. Alright, what if I do Reddit furry? I don't wanna. I'm scared. Might not be a bad place to stop the stream. I think this has been pretty good as like a test run, you know? Like,
Yeah,
of
it's
us.
like, you know, Sissy20KK says it's judging a book by its cover, and like that's
Yeah.
kind of exactly what it is.
Don't.
You know?
I mean, I'm just
You
saying.
You
Yeah, I'm
can
not saying
be
you
informed
determine
and make your own choice, but
Yeah.
don't. You can't. You just can't say that much about a particular person by, you know, some surface level stuff that they enjoy.
I mean, it's a good place to start. I don't think it's a good way to, like, if I don't know anything about you, I'm gonna make some snap judgments. Like, that's just how it's gonna be. Like, I'm going to, before I can learn more about you, I'm going to work off of what I do know about you. And on the internet, that's like, I mean, like, I know that's kind of a sketchy thing, but sometimes on the internet, that's all you have to go on. It's what somebody has said about certain things or what they've enjoyed. You know, you can determine age, you can determine. I mean, it's nothing to rely on. I'll admit that it's not something it's not reliable information, but
because, like, to me, it just signals like an avenue of interaction. You know, if I see somebody with a patch or I said, to me, it just signals like an avenue of interaction more than anything else. You know, if I see somebody in a hockey jersey, I will open up the conversation about hockey instead of opening a conversation about Pokemon cards. But like that's really all you can tell from that.
No, I know, but like, I mean, like, okay, maybe the more relevant point is
how doesn't tell me anything about them.
Yeah, but I guess I'm trying to say, like, and maybe this is because I spend a lot more time talking to random strangers, such as what we're doing right now online. Like, you haven't spent any time talking to these people on the subreddits, right? Like, you don't know any of these people in the chat right now, but you can glean a few interesting things about them based off of, like, the things they're saying and the things they like and the opinions they're holding. That says something about them. But, I don't think that's, bad.
But at the same time, you know,
wait, hold on.
Seeing some of these people talk in the chat, they're saying more than just being involved in a particular fandom. Like, if we were to look at this conversation, I might be able to pick out who's a fan of what. You know, I see there's the you got like a Metal Gear logo in there and a Mario Kart logo, but like what they're saying and the content of their messages tells me more about them than just an association. You know?
Yeah, and I'm not saying but I'm not saying that, like, I'm not trying to make like a list of someone and saying like, because like I think that's just as like dangerous as like relying on a horoscope for someone, is to say like anyone who likes this is like this. But like I can say, like, with context and with how they're bringing up certain things, you can determine things about people.
But that's what I'm saying, is like you're saying. That's exactly what I've been saying, though, is because even in that sentence you're saying I can't define somebody by their fandom, but how they're talking.
So you're more comfortable with informed,
and so, like,
me about that person.
You can. What's that?
You're saying you're more,
If you're talking to somebody and somebody's conversing and they get their ideas out, then you're getting to know that person as beyond their fandom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fandoms have been mentioned in our chat, but at the same, like, there's been so much more context to it that I don't think anybody in here is defined by what they're a fan of.
Okay, but like,
you know what I mean?
Hold on, like this is a great example.
You're saying, but even what you just said, you know, you said you go into the fandoms and you start talking to people and you read their messages and get an idea of who they are.
Yeah.
That's how you need to identify somebody, not by what board you're on when you're talking to them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I will admit that's a dangerous way to go through life, is to just be like, oh, they go to here, they are this, they believe these things, because that is how no, it might seem like a jump in logic, but that's how wars are started, to make assumptions about people just because of where they are, that they believe certain things and that they must be stopped or something like that. But like, okay, so Can You Feel the Sunshine just joined, and he asked me how I'm feeling. I'm feeling great. I'm enjoying myself. I think you might enjoy listening to earlier parts of the stream based on your username, because that's a great song from Sonic Racing. But I feel like, okay, so I'm just going to use Can You Feel the Sunshine as a kind of test here, as a subject. Like, so they, like, are identifying as, they're choosing to identify their name as a Sonic R Racing song, unless there's some other song that I don't know about. And I'm not trying to be like, you know, I'm just saying these are some snap judgments I'm making about this person. It doesn't really, I'm not really saying this defines them. Maybe that was the wrong
Maybe
word.
They just like sunshine.
That's true. They could like feeling it, or they could like finding out whether other people can feel it. But I guess I'm saying, like, that's a good place to start. That's a good place to start to figure out about someone and to find out what they're like and who they enjoy being around or talking about or whatever. So maybe the main point we're disagreeing on isn't so much that fandoms define who we are, but that, like, to the degree in which they define us. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that you can't really tell anything about somebody because you kind of opened with the thesis that being part of a fandom defines who we are, and someone will be able to, you know you or associate things about you because of that fandom.
I don't agree with that. Well, I don't agree with, like, that's what I was saying for the second part. I will say, but maybe again it just comes down to we define differently. But I think, like, to a degree, yeah, you can kind of tell something about someone based on the fandoms they're a part of. It might not be anything concrete, but Subu here likes Sonic Racing, or likes the song, or likes to be associated with it in some way. And I think that's again, like a torch. It doesn't necessarily define, like the media doesn't necessarily define the person, but they're choosing to identify as something to do with that medium does say something about them, I feel like.
So what would you say that it says about Subu in that
I'd say they have some
like,
intimate knowledge of video games. I'd say they have some knowledge about video games. I think they have a degree of interest in older video games. I think they might be a little bit older because of that, or at the very least are familiar with older media because of that. I think they would probably have some other intimate knowledge about Sonic. I think they'd probably have some more, like, intimate knowledge about maybe video game design, and knowing, like, the Sonic franchise's, like, troubled, you know, development cycle and how much of a problem the whole thing has. I don't know. They could be a furry. They could be into anthropomorphic stuff. I don't know. That's something that I could find out in the future. That might, but that just considering that information changes how I'm going to interact with them. Not necessarily in a negative way, but I think it does. Like, I think they're choosing to identify with this thing, and I think that will impact and change how I interact with them as moving forward.
And see, I feel like you started fine, and then you just extrapolated way too much out of it.
No, I'm not saying I'm not extrapolating, but it does impact how I look at the person.
That person maybe had an interest in Sonic or old video games. It's like that's the end of the thing. But then, anything beyond that is just
conjecture. No, it's all conjecture. Like, yeah, no, I'm not saying anything of it is. Yeah, no, exactly. But it's something. You know, if they had put that they like NHL fan, they would be a completely looking different person. It doesn't change who they are.
Headshot _ 420XX.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think it's not. I'm trying to think how to put this. Like, I could put that my username is I love Nazis 420. Like, that doesn't define me as a person, but it does impact how people will view me, you know? That's all I'm getting to. Like, it does define me, in a sense. You there?
I suppose. Yeah. I'm just like, but I suppose. I think we're looking at it from...
Oops, let me try that again. Go ahead.
I think I'm still just coming from the IRL side, where nobody has usernames that they can just blast out. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I got disconnected there for a second. Well, no, I don't think you're. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm saying it's something that's kind of important. You know, like I think it's something that determines who we are as people in the online sense. Like, I look at usernames as a mask, not a name, if that makes sense. Like, you can't tell much about a person by their name. Well, I mean, you kind of can. You can kind of see how their parents wanted to name them. But I think that's also, like, the least informative, you know, way to find out about someone is like, oh, what's their name mean? What does it say about them? Like, it doesn't really mean anything. It's something given to you by someone a very long time ago if you're, you know, over the age of 2. But then at that point, it still doesn't help define you. But I think the mask you choose to wear, the kind of torches of these campfires, you know, which are just like topics, fandoms, political opinions. I think the torches you choose to carry and the opinions you use to represent yourself, I think they definitely define you. I think they say something about you as a person.
I suppose that, I mean, you know, I said a while back, I agree that it can be a signal for somebody to interact with, but I wouldn't say that it speaks to anything deeply, and it sounds like that's what you're saying, just in different terms.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think we're getting to the point where we both pretty much feel the same way about stuff, but, you know, we just
also,
say
I'm
it
seeing
different
in the
ways.
chat that people can't see you, that there's no video, but I have video still, so
yeah,
I
mean, I think that, I don't know, maybe
think,
they're saying something else. It just seemed to be Chromius that was saying something. They might have just been saying
yeah,
a joke.
I don't know if it's just needs to be reloaded or whatever.
I can't see your avatar, Mr. 404. That's strange. Seems like everyone else can.
F5 it.
F5 it. But the
refresh the page.
Can you feel the sunshine? But remember, this is my secondary account for watching only. I have a very popular internet persona, which I need to hide. So 404, you are correct about mask. Yeah, I made a video about this, and because it was something that when I was younger, usernames were very important to me, and I wanted them to be like super deep and meaningful and have all this context and weight. But then I realized that like no one really uses them in that way, where they mean something personally to you, and they're more about like how you choose to represent yourself, and like that says more about you than, you know, like whatever secret meaning your username has. And that's just, I think that's something I've come to learn from a lot of time interacting with people online, that like you can have a like inside joke represent you or whatever. Like, I mean, like Jack Crumb as a username, that's not, you know, doesn't really say much, but it means something to me. 404 Tails, on the other hand, is something that I've started using more and more to identify this channel, because, you know, you can determine something from just hearing that. You can kind of know a little bit about the channel and the things that I'm interested in because of that. And I think, so maybe what we can agree on is that in an IRL sense, no, fandoms don't define who you are, but maybe online they do carry a lot more weight in determining what kind of person you are.
I suppose, yeah, I'll admit that online, you know, that kind of stuff carries more weight only because you have less information to work with.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about in, you know, real life situation, there's a social, you know, contract kind of, you know, depending on context and things like that. And you get a lot more information right away in an IRL situation that can lessen the impact of some of that fan stuff. But if you're online and the only interaction that you have with somebody is what they choose as a username, you know, that kind of signal does carry more weight simply because you have less information to work with. But then, you know, it comes to you whether you want to
let it determine them,
you know, based on that, or if you want to look into it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's
so. It's like I'll agree that it carries more weight online how you represent yourself, just because there are, you know, there's less for people to see.
Yeah, it's what you say carries a lot more weight, and as I think it's like ideologically who you are as a person is defined a lot differently online, just by how you choose to carry yourself. Because most of us are just lurkers, right? We spend 90% of our time not posting content, but just observing, just watching, like I'm doing over here right now. Like I'm just looking at the internet. It doesn't really say who I am as a person, but then when I finally stop, or when I choose to participate in something, or go to a subreddit and talk about it, that says something more about me. And I think like you can kind of sort the internet into like territories, like somebody, like it's almost like in the same way you can't really determine something about someone who uses Twitter, like, but there are, in a large sense, like you can see, if somebody uses Twitter, they might favor these kinds of crowds, like in a large sense, in a very general sense. So I think we're coming to a pretty good,
well, it's like
neutral ground here.
Trying to determine something about somebody based on where they're from.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It does say really something about you. It says, well, oh, see, that's interesting. I thought we were reaching like a, like we're like, yes, we agree. It's like, no, we're completely opposite. I think you can tell. I mean, like, in no way do I want to be only defined by the place I'm currently living in or where I'm from. But it would be dishonest of me to say that it hasn't shaped who I am as a person. Not entirely being the only thing that shaped me as a person, but it does inform, if that's a word that you prefer, it does inform about who I am as a person.
Sure, but at the same time, not everybody from the place that you are from is informed the same way that you have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they.
So it's like I couldn't.
They're all pieces of a puzzle. Like it all adds up. But okay, I think we're at a pretty good point where I don't think I have anything else I want to say, and I feel like we're not getting any closer to agreeing on stuff. So we might as well. I think we can call it here. I think this is a pretty good little, first stream though. I think this has been good. I think we've learned a lot. I hope everyone else has enjoyed participating. I hope everyone else feels like they can stop by and maybe join us on these conversations more, because I miss doing the essay videos on this channel, but I prefer working on stuff visually, so I'd rather not work on a script an entire week to make like an 8-minute video, but I like going over these ideas and kind of coming to certain conclusions about them. And I think the bigger one that we've come to here is, I don't know if we had to summarize everything, Mouse, what would you say?
I just want to, Subu says, your IRL status also affects how you use the fandom as your tool. I kind of just want to see if you will elaborate on that a little bit, because I feel like I agree with that statement, but I want to see what he or
would elaborate on it.
To.
It might take him a while to respond to it, but I maybe you and I can reach an understanding on just like, I think the one thing maybe we can agree on is that it's your fandom or the things you like is more relevant online. Is that a better way of putting it?
I think
maybe that's the one understanding we came to today.
I think if I were to wrap it up in a single sentence, I would say probably first impressions carry more weight on than they would. And whether your first impression is from a username or your first impression is from the subreddit that you ran into them on or whatever, it carries more weight because you have to work harder to find more information about that person.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, I can agree on that. That first impressions are much more important online than, and because of that, the way we choose to present ourselves and the fandoms or places we spend a majority of our time can end up having a much, bigger impact on how people perceive us. Not necessarily. Okay, so you're saying, but your thing is more that we're not defined by fandoms, but that the fandoms carry more weight online than they would in real life because it says something more.
Yeah, I mean the part of this conversation that I struggle with as a whole is just the idea of somebody labeling an entire individual by.
And I'm not labeling. I mean, like it's just like a first impression. Like it's something that you can tell about someone, but I'm not gonna
carrying it down to a first impression situation. It's like it kind of helps me relate to it a little bit more.
Okay.
Just
I think it's a good enough place to start.
Yeah, in any context, I have a hard time just being like, this person likes this, so I know this about them, and that's just a fundamentally alien.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are pretty different in that sense. You're someone I think who tends to judge people by their actions more than their words and stuff like that.
And
Am I wrong?
No, you're correct.
Yeah.
And so like the concept of this has kind of been something that I've been struggling with a little bit, but I do, the idea of making a first impression, somebody who's done job interviews and things like that, like that's a concept that, I can understand and get behind, and how you have to present yourself in the short term that way. And I can see how a username or a subreddit or something like that might, in an online sense, be a big factor in informing who you are.
Sure. But yeah,
again, it comes down to the effort another individual put into, proving or disproving that, and that's up to
right. And maybe that's a conversation for another day. Like, I was just thinking about how I said, like, you tend to be someone who judges people by their actions more so than their words, but they're one and the same on the internet. You can't really act, or like the way you speak
I guess
kind of
that's
defines
true,
who you are. So maybe that's why I tend to enjoy my time here, and it might be something that it's kind of like more alien to you. But I don't know. Not a bad stopping point. I think Can You Feel or Subu said that they'd be willing to go into the Discord to further elaborate on what they meant.
I've seen that they've been posting a little bit on the board here.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's a good call to action. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, or if you have subscribed, check out the Discord. It's a pretty cool little place.
We've been talking in circles.
Yeah, we have, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what Mouse and I are used to doing, so it's nothing out of the ordinary here. But hopefully, it hasn't been too boring for you guys either. I tried to figure out see if we can get to a point where
we talk in circles and hope that the circle gets a little bit tighter. Every
time.
I
think it did. I think we're at a better place than we were when we came here. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's good enough for me. All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off, but it was good talking to you guys, and I hope to see you on another one. I'm hoping we can start doing this every week, but we'll see. No promises. But yeah, I'll look forward to speaking to you guys again in the future. And Mouse, I think this has been a good talk.
Yeah.
All
right. Once we got the audio and stuff figured out.
Yeah, once we cracked all that, I think we'll be good. All right, I'm going to play us out, but talk to you later, guys.
Adios.
Let me see if we're going to... Is this it? No, that's kind of appropriate. There we go. Later, guys.